Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. So today is June 22nd, 2022, and this is a forum for the candidates for the 2022 Ocean Pines Director election. I'll introduce the committee. This is the Elections Committee. I'm Carol Ludwig, Chair, and the members of the committee are Joe Peloso, Mary Ann Whitcomb, Bob Windsor, and Jean Pennington, who is babysitting her grandchildren in another state. Larry Perrone is our board liaison. So I'd now like to request that all the cell phones are off and stored. Okay, got it? Yep. Cell phones are off and stored. Thank you. The successful candidates in this election will serve until 2025. Phew, sounds so far away. And many decisions will be made by this next board of directors over the years. Our purpose this evening is to help inform you, the Ocean Pines voters, about the 6 candidates. We asked for questions from the residents, and thank you so much for all the questions that we got. People are paying attention. Per Ocean Pines Resolution MO6, we will ask 6 questions because we have 6 candidates. Each candidate will get the opportunity to answer all 6 questions. We're asking them in random order, and each candidate has 2 minutes to answer each question. Mary Ann, our timer there, will let people know when they're 20 seconds, I think. Yes, 20 seconds. Is that good? Okay. And then hopefully she won't have to holler done.
Nope, stop.
Stop. Oh, stop. Excuse me. All right. The goal of the Elections Committee is to provide ballots to eligible voters. We'll have them out the week of July 12th, and the ballots must be returned by Wednesday, August 10th at 4 p.m. And this is an annual event. It's in our bylaws because we have to get the results ready for the annual meeting. All right, our candidates in ballot order are Paula Gray, Amy Peck, Stuart Lackernick, Monica Rukowski, Josette Wheatley, and Steve Jacobs. All right, so from now on, if you don't mind, I'd like to call them by their first names so I don't have to keep stumbling over that. All right, each candidate will now have a 3-minute opening statement, followed by the questions that we'll ask the candidates a number of questions. Arian is our timer. Yes, during the question period and each round, we will always start with Paula. Always, yes. Yes. It was the only way we could keep ourselves straight. All right, at the end of the forum, each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. And that's it. So let's proceed to opening statements. And here is the microphone for our visitors online. Can you all hear okay? No. Uh-oh. You're not hearing? Oh, boy. Yeah, I know. Speak loudly. All right, opening statements.
Hello, I'm Paula Gray, and I'm here tonight as a candidate for the OP board. And with just 2.5 minutes, because our timer's going to watch, I'm going to have to squeeze in me. I'm a full-time resident of the Pines. I'm married, I have children, I have grandchildren, and I'm also known as Nana. I have rescue pets. I'm a college graduate with some postgraduate work. I have over 25 years of successful volunteer work, including treasurer and then elected president of the Friends of Downs Park in Anne Arundel County, the UTU Committee Operation Red Block, aiding the families of drug addiction, and an appointment by Maryland Governor Schaefer to serve 3 years on the Foster Care Review Board, working with children and families in critical need. All of these require that I work within established rules and regulations, work with very diverse groups of people having many demands, and being accountable to those who selected and elected me. My work history, I was 32 years as a railroad yardmaster. I received national accreditation from 2 presidents of the United States for my performance. I was very happy. I worked every railroad yard in Baltimore. After my retirement from the railroad, I served 9 years with the Department of Defense and the Federal Railroad Administration as a federal hazmat responder traveling the country. In my personal life, my affiliations include the American Association of University Women, the University of Maryland Alumni Association, Women Who Read, where I help female prisoner inmates with literacy problems. I belong to Intertel, America Mensa, the Ocean Pines Women's Club, the Ocean Pines Literary Library Support Groups, and I serve as a National Aquarium Seal Steward with Coastal Bays, which means I wrap up and stand on beaches in very cold days. I have a small scholarship that I established at Stephen Decatur High School for first-time college attendees in my grandmother's name. Over the next 2 hours, you shall have the opportunity to listen to my answers and hear my thoughts on questions. Always first. If you need further clarification on any of my statements, please feel free to use my email and I will respond. Thank you for your support and thank you for your concern for Ocean Pines, which brings you here tonight.
Anyone online, please turn off your cameras and mics.
I'm Amy Peck. I'm ready to continue to serve Ocean Pines, the community that I love. I use the knowledge and perspective that I've gained the past 20 years as a part-time, now full-time member. I'm a mom, a past Ocean Pines employee, a retiree, a volunteer, and an appointed director. I listen to the community. I believe I'm a highly effective, independent thinker on our board that works very well with the entire OPA team, including our GM. As a director, my first vote was me versus 6, but my well-researched position regarding sick leave was clearly understood. I use my paralegal research skills to understand the issues that Ocean Pines faces. I ask tough questions and I find solutions. I brought hybrid meetings to the clubhouse, increasing transparency and participation. And I'm looking forward to implementing electronic voting so that every vote counts. Ocean Pines is doing great, and I'm proud to be on the board that lowered the assessment by an historic $100. But there's still work to be done. First, we need to focus on the GM position. The stability of Ocean Pines rests on the GM. The board changes every year. So if you want continued success, we need to look at the GM's vision, the operations team embracing and implementing that vision, and the board measuring it. You need a board that works with the GM, not against, and doesn't micromanage. Once we retain the GM, we must maintain our infrastructure, and there's a lot going on. We have the fire department, irrigation, racket facility, safety initiatives, beach club, mailboxes, and continuing our drainage and beautification efforts. I'm here full-time, treating it as a full-time job and working on these things. There's always room for improvement. Let's get the DRs revised and enforced. Let's continue the successes and avoid past mistakes. I'm fiscally conservative. I understand smart investment, and I value your HOA dollars. I'm a dedicated and enthusiastic volunteer focused on keeping Ocean Pines an attractive, affordable, and an enjoyable home for everyone. My name is Amy Peck, Peck for Pines, and I'm asking for your vote.
Before we start the timer, I just want to thank the election committee for holding this, Carol, Mary Ann, Robert, Jeannie, and Joe. I want to thank my fellow candidates for picking up the mantle to volunteer for our community and go. My name's Stuart Lachernick, and I'm a candidate for the seat on the board of directors here. Let me first start by saying I love Ocean Pines. This is why I've run as a candidate for the board of directors in this amazing community for the last 2 years. In the previous election, I garnered 1,511 votes. I'm hoping to build on that support this year. What are the qualifications I feel that you need to be a director? You have to have the desire to serve your community. You have to be caring and compassionate. You have to have the ability to get along with differing personalities. You have to be business-minded, and you have to make decisions that are fair to the community at large. I possess all of these qualities. As for being community-minded, caring, and compassionate, I'm a Rotarian and a Lion, and have served on my board of my Rotary. I'm very community-minded. In this past year alone, we helped conduct a Toys for Tots drive where we collected over 400 toys, a food drive where we collected almost a half a ton of food, and a coat drive where we collected over 200 coats. All these donations went to Diakonia over in South Ocean City. I feel it is our duty to help our neighbors. I was a part of Operation Stand Down. This organization takes homeless vets off the street, plugs them back into the Veterans Administration. We've helped thousands of vets. Those of them that have got their life back together, they oftentimes come back and volunteer to help us. My business style comes from what I've learned in my Rotary and my Lions experience. In Rotary, there's a four-way test you must honor before speaking. Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and relationships? And will it be beneficial to those who you serve? I have the experience necessary to ensure the association keeps a steady financial hand. Let me be upfront so that there's no misunderstanding. I want John Viola to stay as our GM if he so wants. He's done an exemplary job. I also am in support of the Matterwork Group. They are doing incredible work here. Their food is excellent. I don't want any changes. I've been in continuous practice as a doctor of chiropractic since 1992, overseeing all facets of my business. One of the largest practices in my county in Pennsylvania. I currently spend my time between my home here and my home back in Pennsylvania. I brought another doctor into my office so that I can move towards being full-time here. I've attended virtually or in-person board meetings, town halls, some committee meetings in order to familiarize myself with various aspects of the community, in addition to applying twice to volunteer on various committees. I can serve you well as a board member. In closing, the Lions toast is as follows: not above you, not below you, but with you. It's a mantra I live by. I strongly believe our board can work cohesively together by listening to each other. I look forward to serving you, the people of Ocean Pines, and I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
How's everyone tonight? Awesome. My name's Monica Rakowski. I began volunteering and fundraising as a teenager. I served as president of the Mothers Club at my daughter's school and sat on our parish council. I've coached baseball, softball, and indoor soccer teams. Sometimes that felt like I was herding cats. I started my professional career at the Federal Reserve Bank in Baltimore, at one point managing more than 75 associates while directing the staff and workflow to meet regulations, deadlines, and audits. While at the Fed, I worked with the United States Naval Academy, facilitating the start of their ACH payment program for their soon-to-be deployed officers. Most recently, my background in consulting and project management for more than 18 years makes me an ideal candidate for this position. I engage independently with clients to manage their conversions to new applications, ensure they have a smooth experience. I work with them to provide best practice guidance as we configure and implement their projects. This includes, but is not limited to, variance analysis, cost-benefit analysis, and financial modeling. If elected, my top two priorities will be to protect the values of our properties and improve board transparency. First, one of the largest and most important purchases one can make is of our homes. Our homes are investments that affect our future and the future of our families. Whether the housing market is up or down, a well-managed enforcement of the rules and standards regarding compliance are key to this objective. I would propose an educational program for new homeowners, informing them of our rules by hosting quarterly meetings specifically designed to communicate our governing documents. Secondly, being on the board comes with a lot of responsibilities. Being responsible for transparency when communicating with the membership is my second priority. While it may be tempting to keep certain things under wraps, especially if there's dissension among the members or an investment that doesn't go as planned, hiding these types of issues only create more ruckus when the membership finally hears about them. And we all know the membership hears about these issues. While all rules must be applied regardless of who breaks them, I will be accountable and tell the truth, even if it doesn't reflect well on myself or the board. I want to put the effort in because it is the right thing to do. I am hoping for a chance to work harmoniously with other board members, our volunteers, as well as the management team to keep Ocean Pines a great place to live. I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Justette Wheatley, and thanks for coming out tonight. I'm originally from New Brunswick, Canada, and my husband Bob and I raised 4 children in Howard County, Maryland, before moving to Ocean Pines in 2014 to be closer to my in-laws, which are residents since 1996. My professional background includes 25 years in civil and structural engineering design. I'm self-employed and I own AES Drafting Services. I was president for my homeowners association in Howard County, and during those years, I worked creating a financial reserve for aging infrastructure. I also served as a liaison for CERN, a community emergency network response group. In October of 2021, I continued my volunteerism with Ocean Pines when I was appointed to the board of directors. For 8 years, I've been active in Ocean Pines, active with the Chambers of Commerce, and proudly serving on the 50th Anniversary Committee and Communications Advisory Committee, to name a few. My focus this year is to continue to listen to the community and get your voices heard. This includes drainage, infrastructure, and environmental issues. We have a great need to focus on our infrastructure to ensure our future roads, building, water, and sewer systems are in excellent working order to avoid a massive cost, if not well maintained. We need to continue our DMA plan on a positive trajectory for the next 25 years as is best for the interest of all of our members. This includes replacement and maintenance plan for our aging mailboxes, bulkhead restoration, water and sewer drainage, and pipe realigning, and in some cases, replacements. This year, we're able to reduce the annual fees by $100 across the board, and this is a real direct savings to our community. This was the first reduction in dues since 2015, and we're pretty proud of that, as you can tell, because we seem to mention it a lot. I'm very proud to say that I was part of the board of directors that gave back to our citizens. We have closed our 2021 year budget surplus of almost $2 million. Good job to our general manager, John Viola, and his amazing team for a job well done. And a special recognition to the Matt Ort team for good community work and successful growth within our food and beverages. Kudos to you, to the Matt Ort team. We want to thank John Malinowski as well and the golf team for the efforts they put forward for some amazing finances that we've received back this year because of their contribution. And also to the committee members that bring the visions to the table, and this is how it all starts. I vow to continue to vote my conscience, and at the end of the day, I'll continue to extend my hand in friendship and be JoJo, a kind and loving neighbor to all. My only special interest group that I have an alliance to is to the 8,452 lot owners. And this is who I'm here to represent today. And I'm asking you for your vote to continue my work to protect the legacy of Ocean Pines and hashtag OP, keep it going. Thank you.
Ray, please turn off your camera.
Your time. Yes, good job. That is nicer than screaming.
Hello, I'm Steve Jacobs, if you ever read my lawn signs. My wife, Nikki, and I are full-time residents of Ocean Pines, and we love what it has and what it offers to all of us. My wife, Nikki, is here. Raise your hand. She's a talented one of the family. She does pottery, and there are people who have already bought her pottery who will attest to that. So we've been married for over 30 years. We have 2 adult children who live in North Carolina. We share our home with a large and frequently frightened cat. His name is Levo, named after Nationals pitcher Levon Hernandez from the early years of Nationals baseball. Briefly, let me tell you about myself. I serve on the OP Bylaws and Resolutions Committee and the Golf Advisory Committee. I'm past president for 3 years of our homeowners association in Montgomery County, a much smaller one than Ocean Pines. I think every homeowners association is smaller than the one in Ocean Pines. And I served as chair of a county committee providing advice to the county council and the county executive. I'm a retired attorney. I've represented clients in civil, criminal, and family law cases. Most of my work was in the Washington, D.C. suburbs and in the District of Columbia. And my last employment was working for the Attorney General of Maryland, litigating child support cases in Howard County. I worked for several members of the U.S. House of Representatives from both parties and was vice president of congressional affairs for 2 communications and high-tech trade associations. That's a nice way of saying I was a sleazeball lobbyist, by the way. During those 20 or so years, I worked on major energy, cable regulation, consumer protection, communications, and copyright legislation. I want to work for and with you to ensure that Ocean Pines continues to be a great place to live. Looking to the future, board must continue to pursue sound budget and finance decisions that sustains growth and grows our current positive financial posture and ensures that the value of our homes continues to appreciate. That includes keeping assessments as low as possible while making wise investments in the service and amenities we need and enjoy. We all know there's been acrimony and frustration, both among board members and some of our neighbors. My background and experience is to listen to all sides, seek to find a consensus on how to proceed. I am hopeful that we can have a robust debate among all of us, but I'm also a strong believer that we can disagree without being disagreeable. I look forward to your questions today and Saturday as well. I would appreciate receiving your vote, and by all means, please remember to vote. Thank you.
It's like a refrigerator or something. Okay, I'm hoping everyone can hear us. We're going to start the rounds of questions. Yeah. You're not hearing the speakers either? Oh, okay. Yeah,
There's no audio in the room. You just have to speak up.
right. You have to speak up. Yeah, okay. All right, well, since we're having a hard time here, I'm going to move over here to ask the questions and then I'll make Bob come over. We're going to rotate who asks the question, so we go back and get a different voice. Who is it?
Can we get more chairs, please, folks?
Yeah, they're in the closet over there. Hey, Karen. All right, so the first question, Paula.
Get the 4 seconds to walk to the stage.
Yeah, we don't start the timer until you get there. Oh, they can't hear me online? Okay. Sorry. Our visitors.
Used to rotate. One.
All right.
I think that might be a little bit of an angle.
The first question for Paula. Ocean Pines Association owned boat ramps continue to be freely open to the public and commercial use. Would you support efforts to limit access to only Ocean Pines residents and guests? And would you support charging a fee for public and commercial use to work towards funds to purchase and install access control gates?
Here we go. Yes, I really think that we need to take a hard look, and I would refer also to our great general manager and have his input as to what the impact would be if we narrowed it down to only residents. But I also think that maybe there could be a fine line between all residents, no residents, and some residents. It's very burdensome to hear people say, I live here and I can't get my boat in. I live here, I can't find the time. People are in front of me, people are behind me. The main thing would be the economic structure. Personally, with 8,500 homes here and a lot of people retired and a lot of new people moving in, it would be interesting to see if we could support our boat ramps with just residents. I would also say that if we continue while the study's being done, that we assess a charge, maybe even a little bit of a substantial charge, to encourage people to use other resources and not always driving to us. It can be very, very upsetting to residents when we always talk about what we give to other people. And I'm standing here right now. I don't own a boat. I have no affiliation with the boat ramp. But I also understand that I'm going to live here for a long time. And I want us to be fiscally responsible. And again, I defer to our general manager and request that perhaps in order to make a good and valid judgment with full disclosure to everyone while it's happening and not, hey, guess what we just did? I think that we need to find out how much of an impact it would have and how it might benefit us. Do I see a benefit? Not a great one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Amy?
Do I have the same question?
No,
Okay.
no. We switched it up. Okay. Amy, what can Ocean Pines Association and its directors do? Oh, you're going to love this. To improve safety for recreational walkers and bikers and accessibility to essential services like groceries, pharmacies, post office, library for those who walk or bike for transportation.
You said I was going to love this. I was at the meeting last night. I was busy getting the word out about the MDOT meeting last night and the survey regarding the expansion of Route 90. This does not just affect the homes that back up to 90. It doesn't just affect our offshore pond library trail that I love. It affects all of us. Now is the time for Ocean Pines to weigh in and help connect Ocean Pines. We are essentially cut in half by Route 90. Let's take this opportunity to make sure that we have safer pedestrian and bike crossings. With the price of gas, I would love to get on my bike and go from the North Bridge to the library, the pool, and shopping. 589 might also be expanded, but for right now, we have the new medical center and the rural farms coming up, and possibly a new mega sports facility. Again, we need to focus on safety. Where are our crosswalks? On Ocean Pines, when the lines are repainted with reflective paint this fall, let's get some reflective crosswalks down. Let's get more signage for bikes, and let's get some bike symbols on our shoulder, reminding residents to share the road. We have many residents, not just me, interested in increasing the walkability and the rideability of Ocean Pines safely. Our survey showed the interest. It's important to homeowners. Number one is safety.
Okay, thank you. Stuart? Okay, do you feel that social media is a reliable source for communications or sharing of information for decision-making by the board of directors?
That's a great question, given what's happened today. I'll be honest with you. I feel that the absolute arm of Ocean Pines is our media guy, Josh Davis, our press releases. Oceanpines.org is the only place to get any answer, any question answered, period. If there's a question that our homeowners have, email it, info@oceanpines.org. They get right back to you within a couple hours or a day. But social media is for gossip. Our oceanpines.org is where you go to get the information on what goes on in our town. Thank you.
Okay, Monica. Which items from the recent Ocean Pines Association Community Survey stood out to you, and which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
Safety, safety, and safety. We have to keep our safety record going, whether, that means EMS, the fire department is a big issue that we are going to have to look at. I'm looking forward to the town hall on June 30th, where lots of questions hopefully will be answered with that in mind. Other than safety, infrastructure, let's maintain it. We have it. We can't let it go in disarray. It just is going to kind of bite us later as, we have to address it. Well, the fire department, perfect example. Do we knock it down or do we add to it? The plan back in the 80s, I think it was, they put in extra trusses at the top to build a second floor. Now we're saying that's not viable. So for me, it is safety, safety, safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is it? Do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce the violations of the declarations of restrictions and/or the ARC guidelines?
To better enforce, very good question. I do believe that the way that our DRs are set up, they are in good shape. We are really tightening them up, and I believe we were working on them actually just this week again. It's important for DRs to be in good shape. We as the committee for the art committee, or I should say the art committee, is very well put together as far as how they implement having these DRs followed through. So one of the specific things that they like to do is they have an actual a document that keeps track each month of those that are not in compliance, whether it's maintenance, whether it's trash, whether it's grass that has grown too tall, et cetera. And all these things do affect our neighbors and such, and they have a lot of good things that are in place to implement that. Our DRs are being tightened so that we have less loops to go through to get the same results at the end of the day. And I think that's a very important thing to do. We have been focusing just recently on our bylaws revision, which also helps to reduce doubling up on certain aspects and trying to get our community more under one directive. And I think that we're doing a tremendous job under the Dr. Horn presidency. I think she's doing a great job pulling and finding the loopholes for our community so that we can eliminate a lot of the duplications that seems to happen. Most of the folks that do not comply with our bylaws or DRs are typically they're in multiple violations. So it always seems to be the same individuals. So thank you very much for the question, and I'm just done here. Thank you.
All right. Steve, as the refrigerator starts up again.
Yeah.
Reminds me of our old refrigerator. Steve, as related to the Board of Director operations, what does transparency mean to you?
Well, transparency obviously is a concept in which the board's deliberations and decision-making is open to the public. I think from what I have seen, the board is pretty transparent. There is within the Maryland statute a provision for homeowners associations by which they can close the meeting if they have to, but there are limited reasons for doing so. It has to do with advice from legal counsel for pending litigation, personnel matters, affecting the reputation of a person or board member or employee of the association, possible discussion of criminal misconduct, those sort of issues. It is appropriate, and contracts, it's appropriate at that time for the board to go into closed session. And I'm not aware of any instance where this board has gone into closed session that didn't fit under that rubric. So I think we're pretty transparent. Anybody who wants to can watch the board deliberate on YouTube. They can watch it on the Ocean Pines website when it's posted. There's sufficient press coverage. There's even social media to raise opinions. So to that extent, I think it's fairly open. I do think, however, that there are ways in which there has to be an opportunity for the board members to be able to discuss amongst themselves how something is going to form as an issue and not get caught up with having to take a position in the open and not be able to move off that in order to reach a suitable conclusion for everybody. How that's done, I'm not entirely sure, but that's something that could be worked out in the future. So that's my answer.
Thank you.
And thank you for the question.
Okay. Are you ready, Jim?
I'm ready.
Your turn.
My turn. Paula. Good evening. Do you feel that social media is a reliable source for communications or sharing of information for decision-making by the board members?
Absolutely not. Okay. Social media will always have a slant. It can be viewed by the board members as a reflection of what's being said in the community. It can be viewed by the board members as the feelings or things that the board must attend to straighten out to become factual, but to use those different outlays, most of them a little bit slanted in the direction. That's what social media is. It's a slant into the direction of the person putting it out. And as long as when they look at that, they take that for granted, it can be a key for the board to use to contact the residents, to be more open so that the residents have an idea of why this is occurring in social media. It can be a good way for the board to intercept and intervene before anything gets out of hand. But it also should be viewed as just that. The transparency of this board and the boards in the past have been a little difficult for people to understand where they actually get their information. You hear it in the library, you hear it in the pool, you read it in certain columns. And sometimes you wonder if you're reading about the same Ocean Pines. Do we all live here? So what we need the board to do, and I think they do a fine job of it, they listen and they stop it, or they try to stop it. But we also need a one-stop shop where it can be posted what we heard or what the board is doing about something. And so we can all read the same information. If we continue to have slants, we will always have dissension, and dissension can really get out of hand quickly. Congratulations to the board for having to read so many social medias. If not, have a safe day.
Amy. Which items from the recent OPA community survey stood out to you, and which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
Over 1,800 people filled out the survey, many of them electronically, and it was very clear that safety, maintenance of infrastructure, and community appearance is what is important. I'm going to take a little different slant on this. We are addressing each area, but we also face challenges. Safety. We have funded 2 additional EMS positions, but we also need to face that we have a future strain on our HOA assessment dollar as we move from a model of an all-volunteer fire department to a paid fire department. We need to address the department's needs for a new building. We need to be competitive in our wages to attract police officers, and we need to protect both our young and our old members. Maintenance of infrastructure. We need to be prepared for the unexpected. Just recently, we had unexpected racket court repairs and a broken gas line. Challenges are going to be there, including inflation and COVID supply chain delays. We need to continue to fund our drainage. Beautification. It's great that we have cherry trees and palm trees, floating plant boxes, new lighting at the bridge coming soon. We renovated the teak benches at the golf club. We have painting projects, but we also need to revise and enforce our DRs so that our community always looks its best. As a director, I will continue to focus on what is important to the community. And that includes listening to what the survey results were. Thank you.
Stuart, do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce violations to the Declaration of Restrictions or guidelines?
Yes, I do. Today, at today's board meeting, there was a guy from CPI, and they were talking about, there was a motion entered about permits for removal of trees and having the owner to sign off on the permit. So there's an issue. There's trees that are disappearing. Nobody's getting permits. So CPI has an idea of how to maybe remedy that. The DRs, some might feel that they're antiquated because they're 50 years old. I do not. I feel that our DRs are as antiquated as our Constitution. If you want to change them, amend them. Don't change them. You can't change them by just changing a DR or eliminating something. Amend it. So I think that they're there to be followed. And that's, give me that question again.
Do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce violations to the DR?
Okay, all right. Also, if there's an issue where you're not getting any satisfaction, don't call our local police department because there's really not a record of it. If you got an issue, let's say with a renter down the street or whatever, call 911. There's a record of it. You do enough of that, you can go to Snow Hill with the record of those violations and get something done. Worcester County has a mechanism for enforcing certain types of violations. It's not just up to HOA, our Ocean Pines Association. Thank you.
Monica, as related to the Board of Directors' operations, what does transparency mean to you?
Transparency is transparency, you know, it means discussing things in the open, having a dialogue that everyone can participate in. I do feel like we've gone behind closed doors too often. And I realize there are certain reasons you must do that. Understand litigation, personnel issues, and things like that. But I think sometimes missing in that when the board goes behind closed doors, there's not enough communication afterward about that. And I feel like there could be more done to communicate that to the membership without violating anybody's rights or, interfering in anything private, whether it be related to them personally, their jobs, or performance. Thank you.
This is the mouthful question. OPA-owned boat ramps continue to be freely open for public and commercial use. Would you support efforts to limit access to only OPA residents and guests? Alternately, would you support charging a fee for public and commercial use? And if so, work to approve funds to purchase and install access-controlled gates?
I'd go for B. I think that there's local communities in the areas that do have commercial ramps that you pay a base fee to get you put your boat in. And it seems to be feasible for the community. They make enough money to support to have such things in place. Our community, as it is, the way that the boat ramps are set up, we certainly use it immensely between the neighbors, et cetera, but it could certainly be a way of revenue back to the community because it is used by our neighbors and we all are aware of that. And, if it's a $5 per launch, well, that $5 adds up at the end of the day. And if we can come up with the proper data that shows that we could actually make this an affordable and feasible way to go, I would be supportive of that. That's what I have. Thank you so much.
What can Ocean Pines Association and its directors do to improve safety for recreational walkers and bikers and accessibility to essential services like groceries, pharmacies, post office, library for those who walk or bike transportation?
Well, I think there's an opportunity to make sure that, let me backtrack for 1 second. One thing I think you can do, among a lot of things, is to make sure that the speed limit, particularly on Ocean Parkway, is enforced. I tried going up and down Ocean Parkway, staying at about 34, 35 miles an hour. I also find people riding right on my bumper and I get passed on occasion. If I go to turn, they zoom in right by. So I think speed limit is important. The other thing I think is there are times when you are on the road and there's work being done at a house, there's someone walking their dog, there's a bicyclist, the person driving the car should let the pedestrian go by. You're not in that big of a rush. You'll get there anyway. You'll get there faster than the person walking. So I think there's some just common sense approach. I would go further in the discussion before about Route 90 and potentially even Racetrack Road. I think those are issues that need to be addressed One person pointed out to me that one of the things that maybe we don't do very well is we don't reach out effectively to Worcester County and the county council, and we don't deal effectively at times with our state legislators. Whatever that is going to be done regarding Route 90 is a state matter with some federal money. It's important by itself. Ocean Pines is not going to necessarily change whatever the ultimate plan is. You need your state senator, your state delegate to be carrying the water for us to get those changes made that we need. And I think that's an area where we need to improve our work.
You know what? I messed up. It winds up the same question, so I'm just gonna pop ahead to round 6, and then I'll do three. Okay, so nobody gets confused.
Okay.
Tell Bob not to jump out of his chair. Okay, it's falling. But you still do number 4 then.
I do 4. Thank you. I'm sorry.
As related to the Board of Directors operation, what does transparency mean to you?
Transparency is the way to get information to the 8,500 almost people that we represent in a factual, timely, and honest manner. It should be done well, it should be done quickly, and it should be done with various means of transmission. Not everyone's going to have an email. Not everyone wants a computer. Not everyone is content with having to look for it on a site or get a hook so they can take a look at it. The board has to make certain that every person in this community receives information. At the board meeting today, one of the things that came up was that we need an email from everyone here. Well, a lot of people aren't going to give you their email. So we have to make sure that when this information comes out, back to the timeliness, it contains what people need to understand it, why it was done, and what they can do if they're not content about it. We're not giving resources. And I really think that transparency is a word that is a catch-all. It means that to everyone in this room, I bet you if you have 50 people here, you have 50 definitions of transparency and what you would like to see happen. I think we should go back to the meetings that we had on Saturday morning because a lot of people came and a lot of people would be there. Wednesday mornings aren't very good for most of the people here who work. So now we have to find another resource to find out what happened. That is what I mean by transparency, a decision to make sure that everyone is reached and that they get the information that they need. It might be a little expensive. It might be a little difficult in the beginning to try to find ways to reach everyone, but I think that it would make a lot of people in the Pines happier. Thank you.
Okay. Amy, Ocean Pines' own boat ramps continue to be freely used, open to the public and commercial use. Would you support limit access to only Ocean Pines residents and guests? Alternately, would you support charging a fee for public and commercial use? And if so, work to approve funds to purchase and install access control gates?
I hear a lot of the chatter about limiting our amenities to only residents. We cannot do that. We are nonprofit. So I would not support that because it's illegal, but we can make a plan that would help the residents. Just like we do with our other amenities, we can charge different rates for residents versus non-residents. I've actually looked into this issue. Years ago, they talked about a gate and you would use an electronic card and it would let you in and out. That is a little bit of an expensive undertaking and everyone has to get a card and you might forget your card. What we can do is just issue stickers. You would pay a fee. If you're a resident, it would be a lower fee and you would get a sticker for your car. If you were a non-resident, it would be a higher fee. We could have an attendant that would periodically check to see if the cars had stickers. And if you didn't, we could have signage saying what the fine would be. What would happen if you didn't have a sticker? This would limit the craziness that is on a beautiful Saturday afternoon at White Horse Boat Ramp. And it would give residents preferential treatment in using the boat ramp. So that would be my idea to address that.
Okay, thank you. Stuart? What can Ocean Pines and its directors do to improve safety and recreational walkers and bikers and accessibility to essential services like groceries, pharmacies, post office, library for those who walk or bike for transportation?
Okay, I think there's a couple things here. When the MDOT, when they went over their plans for widening Route 90, it's really a safety issue. Let me back up for a second. Levittown, every Levittown, whether it's Pennsylvania, New York, you can go and walk to school from any place in that town without crossing a street. Bet you didn't know that. That's engineering. We need to have our issue here engineered so that we can have a safe way of getting around. I think that it's imperative that we have an engineer. We have to have major input into being able to how this is going to directly affect us. I mean, 90 splits us in half. We're looking at putting both halves back together in a safe manner. Thank you.
Monica, do you feel that social media is a reliable source for communications or sharing of information for decision-making by the board members?
No, flat out, no, I don't. I cannot stress enough that if people want to know what's going on, go to the Ocean Pines Association website. Everything is there. Videos, the academy, all of the committees, their declarations. I go to social media when I want commentary about something I've said or someone else's opinion. But if I want the facts about Ocean Pines, go to the oceanpines.org website. Thank you.
Right. Josette?
Yes.
Which items from the recent Ocean Pines Association Community Survey stood out to you, and which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
Safety, safety, safety. As we all know, we've been through a lot lately, and I think safety is the number one priority of our community. It's important that we can all feel safe to take our families out in public among our peers and go out and have a social cocktail or just converse with the neighbors. It's extremely important, and we can't lose a grip of that whole situation. That we need to remember that we're neighbors first and we're humans first, and we need to be kind to one another. So safety is important. Secondary for me would have to be drainage is an important issue within our community. And although we don't see it today, the discussions of Maryland 90 being expanded could truly affect our community like you wouldn't comprehend today, because we already have drainage issues and we'd be bringing in more drainage issues due to the fact that the grade would have to be graded out and the water's going to end up going off the roadway. So that's in our community. So those two for me, I think would be extremely important to be addressed. Thank you.
And Steve, do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce violations to the declarations of restrictions or ARC guidelines?
I think for the most part, the system can work with a couple of caveats. One is at not the meeting today, but I believe the prior meeting of the board, there was an acknowledgement on the part of ARC that there was a backlog of cases, that they have prioritized a number of, let's politely call them repeat offenders, for action. They were looking for a way to streamline the process, which the board seemed, my recollection is, endorsed as a means of going forward. But definitely there's a backlog that needs to be addressed. I believe the best way, we can talk about the issue with the tree cutting, would be to have the resident secure the permit as opposed to the tree company. I think the tree companies need to know from Ocean Pines that failure to ensure that the homeowner gets that permit will create some problems for their future business. I'm not quite sure how that would best be done, but they need to know they probably would not be welcome if they don't follow the rules. The last thing that's stuck in my mind, and my recollection is during last year's campaign for board seats, and I don't remember which candidate it was, by the way, made the point that a lot of what transpires is complaint driven. So to use the phrase, if you see something, say something. You may be right, you may be wrong, but you need to get the matter in front of the appropriate people within Ocean Pines to address the problem. And it requires us to be a little bit more interactive even with our own neighbors. But I don't see that as a problem. I would think that's a positive way to address the problem.
You're doing 4 minutes, right? Yeah, all right. Yep. Mhm. That's correct.
Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Which items from the recent OPA community survey stood out to you? And which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
Well, I think that we all like the fact that they're worried about, people are concerned about the value of their property, about the operation and the fiscal responsibility of the Pines, and that they want to know what is going to be done to maintain the standard of living we all enjoy here. Ocean Pines is a wonderful community, and the value of our property is part of it. But when you go to other communities and you drive through and you see what's happening there, you get really concerned that if we're not careful here, the same things could happen. So you cannot fault anyone for saying the value of our property, the safety of our people here, and what we need to do to maintain our standard of living. That's redundant to something I said a little while ago, but it's all connected. We need to make sure that Ocean Pines does not fall by the wayside with outside rentals, rental properties. We're not saying not have them at all, but we're also saying go to the ARC committee to make sure that these properties are maintained, that our rules and regulations are enforced, and that we reflect and take care of all those responses of people who said exactly the same thing on that survey. 1,800 people out of a survey of 4,000 people is a lot of people to agree on anything, anywhere. And I think we really always need to take their concerns and their statements as part and parcel of what we do. The ARC committee has done a very great job of making sure that some things are taken care of. And we need to give them away a little bit more force as far as the tree people go. I do agree with that. I wake up every morning to the sound of trees.
Amy, do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce violations to the DRs or ARC guidelines?
Yes, I do. You know what makes a great neighbor? A community that enforces their DRs. I am happy to report that the ARC committee understands that need across the board, including with tree removal. We are finally going to start using a tool that we have, and that is to deny our amenities to our repeat offenders. Community appearance was very important in our survey, so enforcing the DRs is also important. Right now, we have 2 CPI staff. Let's hire the staff to get the job done. Ocean Pines is a resort area with part-time owners. I understand that many part-time owners buy their home here. They help pay for their mortgage by renting it out until they're here full-time. I get it. I've been here 20 years, most of it as a part-time owner. That being said, the short-term rentals are now more popular than ever. Just recently, Turns Landing had 4 recent sales go to companies that plan to exclusively rent those homes out. This can forever change the flavor of a neighborhood. However, we can all live peacefully together. The board is preparing revisions to our DR language that will align Ocean Pines with Worcester County when it comes to short-term rentals. I hope to implement electronic voting so each section can vote on the changes to these DRs. This is a problem that we can fix.
As related to Board of Director operations, what does transparency?
Made a few notes here. I think that transparency is open communication between what goes on in the board so that our members know what's happening. You know, we have a lot of closed sessions, I don't know that they all meet the criteria for a closed session. I understand employee issues, got to keep them private. But there's other issues like we spend a lot of money on our legal. We spend an enormous amount of money on our legal. When was the last time we put an RFP out to determine how much we spend on that? I have some real questions because I feel that we have paid for maybe some questionable advice, and then we have to pay to defend that advice. Or sometimes the board doesn't take the advice and acts on their own. That's not transparent, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. I think meetings should be moved to Saturday because during the work week at 2 p.m, it makes it incredibly difficult for people to get there that work. You know, listen, not everybody is retired. Not everybody in this community is retired. We need to move our meetings back to Saturday at 9 o'clock so everybody can be more participatory and transparent. Thank you.
Monica, OPA boat ramps continue to be freely open for public and commercial use. Would you support efforts to limit access to only residents and guests, or would you ultimately support charging a fee?
I do not support limiting it to just residents. Again, our community is open. I think right now, how big of an issue is it really? Yes, there might be a wait. I've never, and again, I don't go there every weekend. I've never been there where I can't, park and launch something. And again, that might be timing on my part. I am opposed to commercial use of it. This is a community, with residents, and we open our other amenities up to the public. So I'm opposed to saying no to anybody outside of, that's not a member. But I am opposed to the commercial use of it. They could help in some way to support that. Kind of don't like the thought of the electronic things. I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank. People are forgetting their badges all the time. And, again, if you're at the Federal Reserve and you don't have your badge, there's a lot that goes into that. How are we going to do that when somebody gets up there? They have their boat up there and it's like, oh, I can't go anywhere. So I think we might be inviting some issues in that regard. I do think it's worth, studying Amy's point of, maybe stickers or something to that regard. But at this point, I don't think it's an issue that we should kind of take away from some of the other things we want to see accomplished here. Thank you.
Me and my little book.
In your little book, what can Ocean Pines associations and its directors do to improve safety for recreational walkers and bikers and accessibility to essential services like groceries, pharmacies, the post office, the library, for those who walk or ride their bikes?
I'm glad you asked. That's right up my alley. So I believe that now's the time for our Ocean Pines to embrace this Maryland 90 if it's going to widen, and we know that it's going to widen if they're looking at the design now. It's our opportunity as a community to protect our investments and to have, as part of the design, to install some bike lanes behind these sound barrier walls as my vision. And then also to open up the Ocean Gateway, the bridge, the overpass, make that allowable for fire trucks to be able to get their trucks from the north side to the south side to the north side, and to reduce that time that it takes for them to get to a fire. I think this would be a great time for us to step up and make this happen. I also believe that we should have access to get to a grocery store by bicycle or by footpath. I think it's extremely important to have a community that you can go from point A to point B by foot and instead of driving. Today, with the cost of fuel and et cetera, everything is an expense, as we all know. And although we live in a bubble where our homes and everything's a beautiful place, there's a lot of folks with poverty just in our area. And this would truly embrace the opportunity for community to work together to beautify what's ours. Drainage is a big issue. I mentioned that. And as part of this design, to me, I feel that safety would be a big concern, of how we would do the design for our community. Thank you, 20 seconds. So if anybody's got any questions that they would like to know more about this, if you're looking for a rah-rah, I'm your girl, but just at Wheatley for Ocean Pines Board of Directors. Thank you. Stick that one in. You like that?
Steve, do you feel that social media is a reliable source for communications or sharing of information for decision-making by the board members?
In my next 30 minutes, social media serves a purpose. It allows people to provide opinions. There's more discussion about issues and matters of importance to people who don't normally interact with the board or any of the committees. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I think there's a value to social media. Should it be relied upon as a source of pure information? Probably not. It is opinion driven. Some of those opinions can be quite pointed to the point of being frankly reprehensible, but it serves a purpose. And my view is that we have an active and viable website that provides a great deal of information, both in video and print form, that is available to everybody. I think we get pretty good coverage from our weekly newspapers. Also, there's a slant on those as well. But in terms of putting the facts out there, I think they generally do a pretty good job. And if you want to, as I do, look at social media to get an idea what people are thinking, that's fine. Some are a little bit better at self-regulating than others. I give Joe Reynolds more credit there than some of the others, but there is a value to social media that we shouldn't ignore. But in terms of hard information, facts, what you need to know, what's going to happen next, not the place to go.
Okay.
Which ones are we up to?
5. I'll read 5 and then you do 3.
So
That work?
we are going to do.
Yeah. And then
Getting smaller.
there you go.
Okay.
All right. I messed that up. Okay, Paula, do you have ideas of how the association can better enforce violations to the Declaration of Restrictions or ARC guidelines?
I was fortunate enough to be at a meeting when one of the committee people, I don't know if he was the chair or not, was there with a presentation a couple meetings ago about, for instance, the tree violations. And he had an excellent plan. He brought up that we also have to involve the tree companies and actually different ways that that make the owner responsible for the permit, but make sure that the tree companies are held accountable to the point where perhaps they could actually be banned from working in the pines because they had so many violations. I was interested in really what they had to say about the concerns of the committees here. One of the things that I would like to see improved and perhaps might save us some of the legal fees is that trying to get a legal adjunct against anyone who only has a 30 days of violation should maybe be stepped back to maybe 60 for this reason. As we all know in the Pines, getting anyone to do anything can take a while. So if you have to find someone that has to get on your roof or power wash your house or help with your weeds, might not be able to get it in that 30 days. But the art committee has really stepped up. When I first moved here, I thought that they were people that showed up in the night in a hood and made your life miserable. I have now realized how important they are to the Pines. And I think that the new group is doing an excellent job. So if we have to back that up, also back it up with the fact that complaints can be looked at by the board and by the committee, but there should also be a second opinion or time for people to get the violations corrected before they're facing a legal ramification. It actually came up at the board meeting that if you didn't have the violation done, that you would start paying our legal fees after 30 days. I don't think that would be safe for anybody. But we need to keep the Pines the way it is.
Okay. Amy? As related to wait, before I start, I'm going to ask everybody for your total respect. I know sometimes you want to comment, but the comments coming from Beck every so often, let's keep them quiet. Thank you. Do you have, oh no, where are we? As related to the board of directors operations, what does transparency mean to you?
The survey showed the importance of transparency. My very first task when appointed was to get hybrid meetings. This was not just to increase participation, but also to increase transparency. I make sure all agendas and committee meetings are posted. It's important that the board owns up to mistakes, like the recent certification of candidates not being done correctly the first time. I make sure to direct homeowners where to find the information on our website. Even hard copies of our financials can be found in the administration lobby. Many owners are complaining about the closed board meetings. This is a necessary evil sometimes when personnel, legal, or contract issues are being discussed. Confidentiality is important. Another complaint is how the board responds to public comments. There are rules in place about what topics can be brought up in special meetings. There is a time allotted for public comments. With hybrid meetings, the chat function should only be used during public comments. If elected, I hope to continue transparency with more convenient meeting times and multiple town halls regarding important topics. I was for having an additional town hall for the bylaw referendum. If it's important, I think the public should have multiple times to weigh in on those issues. And I also look forward to having electronic voting because transparency means that every vote counts.
And Stuart? Ocean Pines owned boat ramps continue to be freely used by the public and commercial.
You don't have to read the whole thing.
Okay, you got it,
I
yeah.
think I heard it in a couple of times. You ready?
Yep.
Go. I think we need to limit this amenity just to Ocean Pines residents. Put a guard shack up there, put a gate up there, put a sticker on a car, whatever you got to do. Charge a fee for people outside here. But the bigger issue isn't really the crowd at the boat ramp. Have you gone over by Mumford's Pool where the boat ramp is on a Saturday? The trailers that are sitting all over the place. I must have knocked on 1,000 doors last year when I was campaigning. And the biggest problem in that neighborhood was parking all over the place. Something has to be done about that. I don't know what the answer is, but we actually have to do something about that. There was a study, I think it was in B&F, about putting a gate up, and it actually showed that we could turn a small profit. But I think we have to limit our boat ramps to residents and charge a fee for outside people. It isn't against the rules because we're a nonprofit. You can charge people to use our amenities. That's it. And the other thing, a lot of times we've heard a lot about bringing in electronic voting. The park has electronic voting. Why can't we? Thank you.
Monica, what can Ocean Pines Association and its directors do to improve safety for the recreational walkers and bikers and all the places that they want to go?
Thank you.
That include the post office? Oh, okay.
I definitely agree. next to the roads, I don't want to call it a bike path because it's not, it's the shoulder of the road, are really rough to ride on. I lost 3 water bottles just 2 days ago because of bouncing in, coming out of my holder. So I think there definitely needs to be improvement there. Also, where trees are hanging over, you've got to duck to walk under some of them. So I think, we need to do a better job as a membership to get those things taken care of. As far as getting to the grocery store and the post office and all, our community is changing. Yes, we have this retirement community. We also have younger people coming in and being full-time residents. But I'd like to see some type of shuttle service maybe. And maybe it's once a week or once every other week that we're going to provide a ride to the food line or a ride to the post office or a ride to the library. Some people might not be able to walk that distance. So what are we doing to kind of address that? Even if the shoulder of the roads are safe and all, some people just can't walk that far, or they have groceries that they can't get home with. I'd also like to see us maybe talk to the schools. If the children have service hours, they have to fulfill for graduation requirements. I know in some counties in Maryland, that's required. The neighbor that's, having a hard time, can't get his leaves raked up or something. Hey, we've got 5 kids that are going to come over and help you out here. So I think they need attention, but I'd really like to focus on some of the senior or people that cannot physically get somewhere and provide some type of service for them. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Suzette?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you feel that social media is a reliable source of communications for sharing of information for decision-making by the board members?
That's a tough question. The answer is no. I don't think that social media is where we need to go for any of our real information. That is a social club. That's where you go to unwind and look at gossip and perhaps learn about your neighbor's garden or what they ate yesterday for lunch. But as far as the Ocean Pines organization, every one of you guys should walk around, not that one, sorry, wrong card, with the Ocean Pines info cards in your pockets at all times, because this is the best thing, and this is where you go for your information, oceanpines.org. Josh does an amazing job at giving us the information we need for weekly news, etc. Colette Horn does an amazing article for the Gazette, no, Capital, Courier. Name 3 of them. Oh my gosh. And you can tell I read the paper a lot, and it means a lot to me. But I truly feel that the social media is not the place to get your information. Go to the source, get the facts. Facts don't lie. The rest of it is just an opinion, and that's that. Thank you so much. And remember, pick up your cards at the office. Share them.
Okay. Steve, have you guessed what your question is yet? Which items from the recent Ocean Pines Association communication survey or community survey stood out to you? And which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
I think the first thing we have to recognize is that as a general rule, Ocean Pines got pretty good grades in that survey. There are a lot of people who are generally satisfied. They also identified a number of areas that they're concerned about: appearance, safety, infrastructure. And frankly, I think we're all in favor of trying to see that improve to a degree. The ultimate question is, how much can you do? My view is that the first and foremost priority has got to be safety. Now, there's certain things that are going to be tied to that. I mean, for argument's sake, the issue with the Southside Firehouse is something that needs to be addressed, and that's going to take some time. That's not going to be resolved right away. There's a lot of questions, and frankly, we don't even frankly know what the volunteer fire department's asking of Ocean Pines yet. But safety is probably the primary issue. The secondary issue to me would be infrastructure. My general impression is that our infrastructure is in pretty good shape. There is areas such as drainage and bulkheads that need to be addressed. That's an ongoing process. Money is being spent to do it, but you never do anything as fast as everybody would like. But those would be the two that I'd want to focus on first and foremost.
Okay, we're coming to the last round. It's 7:20.
There we go, all right.
Clock slowly and we can stay longer.
Yeah, and sit back down for a while.
Paula.
Started that.
What can Ocean Pines Association and its directors do to improve safety for recreational walkers, bikers, and accessibility to essential services?
Well, if any of you have ever been over at the library in the winter and watched people pop out of the culvert, cutting from one side to the other, people have made an impromptu pathway that way. And they use that back and forth. They take strollers, they take bicycles, they take all kinds of things. And the first time it happened to me, I just thought they popped out of the ground. It is not a safe thing to do. It's full of water and leaves and muck. But to improve the safety here, I live on Windjammer, which is the Parkway 2 as far as speed goes. It's very difficult for all of us and any of us in all of the pines to walk our dogs unless we're on cul-de-sacs or to go out with our bicycles. The safety issue, the primary one that I see is speed. We have a lot of people who think that if we're doing the speed limit, we need to park the car and stay home. So I think our police department, which is already burdened, needs to make a little bit of a presence known. We only have to give out 2 or 3 tickets and word might get, or maybe 8, word might get around. The safety as far as crossing over to the grocery stores, if you've noticed on 589, they have built ramps for people to go up and down, which might have walking issues. But that's a very dangerous thing to do. And you're not going to get support from when they were here a few years ago talking about having a bridge to let us cross 589. The state people just they just left. So it's going to be difficult. I like the idea of someone being able to pick people up who really need a ride. But the other thing is, call it out. A young man was riding with his children on Windjammer the other day, and he stopped and used the phone to call the police because he was blown off the road by cars passing him. So if you see unsafe things, do unsafe things. The other thing is, when we talk about the rental units here, make sure that you are aware that if we vote by district or section, that we make sure we don't create an environment that encourages a lot of loud, raucous people or a lot of people that might, because of being in a section, might affect your ability to be safe in your homes and to have to worry about your doors being unlocked.
That's the question.
I saw it on Facebook already.
Process of elimination, yep. Process of elimination.
Do you feel that social media is a reliable source of communications or sharing of information for decision-making by the board?
No, the board should never use social media in its decision-making. When I first came aboard, Doug Parks, a fellow director, said, ignore the noise and focus on the facts. Social media is a double-edged sword. I do like to use it to educate and inform residents, and I especially like to use it to promote activities. Unfortunately, it can also be used to perpetuate false information and a constant negative narrative. I was asked to try to come up with a social media policy for board members, and that was not realistic. But instead, my suggestion was to come up with a code of ethics and a code of conduct, similar to what the park uses, and Tom Piatti and I have discussed this. The park has one, and it works very well, and it addresses many of the issues that Ocean Pines faces. I've brought this matter to the attention of the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee. Right now, they're working on our plan and revising our vision and mission statement, and next they can tackle this project. I have the utmost confidence in the committee. As for now, I've learned from my own political gaffes, and I try to post helpful information, and I work with Josh, who has been wonderful, helping get the word out about town halls, and surveys. You have until July 15th to fill out the survey for the MDOT Route 90 expansion. That's my little plug. Please fill out the survey and continue to promote Ocean Pines. Thanks.
Read the whole thing.
Okay, Stuart, which items from the recent OPA community survey stood out to you, and which ones would you prioritize as a board member?
I filled it out. 1,800 of my fellow residents filled it out. And, we've talked about it, safety, infrastructure, and amenities. But I want to talk about the affordability of some of our amenities, specifically our pools. Think about it. If you get a pool membership for your family, it's $340. And if you want to buy parking in town, it's another $140. So it's $480 for a swim club membership for the season with parking down in town. And it's not that bad. Here's where the problem comes in. You get your grandchildren come down with your kids. You have 4 or 5 of them come into the house. $50 if you want to go to the pool for the day rate. $50 a day. I don't know what the answer is, but we've got to figure out a solution to that. If you are related to somebody that lives here, something should be figured out where it's not $50, $60 if you have a family of 4 or 5 that come down to use the pool. So I think that amenities are important. I think that our infrastructure, listen, John Viola, a couple board meetings ago, went over how we're fixing a lot of our drainage ditch pipes. They're doing this lining thing where they're lining it with some sort of a plastic liner, increasing the lifespan by like 40, 50 years. We have to put a lot of folks into the effort for our ditch maintenance. Our ditch maintenance is good. It's not great. Some of these guys that are on ditch maintenance, they get pulled off to go mow the lawn. They get pulled off to go fix this. We need a group that's on ditch maintenance all the time. And I got 20 seconds left and I finished with 20 to go. Thank you.
CPI ARC violations.
Do you think you can better enforce violations?
Yeah. As far as the violations and enforcement, in May, ARC recommended using interim tools to reduce legal costs and try and prevent property owners from possibly becoming involved in the county courts. The board approved these steps as well. So right now, unless this has changed since that May meeting, there are 6 properties that owners have had their voting rights and the use of the association amenities suspended until the violations are cleared. So the committee itself has taken some steps there. The properties that were targeted have had violations in existence for the longest time. And also permits were not obtained when they added on structures. Hopefully the ARC will hold regular reviews and continue this process. And as the committee stated, it had gone a long time before really anything had been done. So I say, let the committee do their job, then come to the board when we need to be involved and take it from there. But I think the committee's made great steps this year in particular. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, just said, as related to the board of director operations, what does transparency mean to you?
Great question. So transparency, I believe we can all agree that this word is possibly the most desired word for action across our nation today. Everybody wants transparency. So we in Ocean Pines as homeowners want to have transparency within our board meetings. I respect this sentiment and demand as such. As a director of the board, I have supported the concept of hybrid meetings to allow larger audience participation. Also, we have added comment sections for live questions to be asked to the board of directors. This is a giant step forward for transparency and inclusion to allow more member participation. We also wish for maximum transparency regarding our budgeting and spending. Our budget process is completely transparent. It begins with the review of the GM's proposed budget by Budget and Finance Committee, an open meeting, and then by board, an open meeting. And finally, in public hearing that solicits member input to the budget. All of this occurs in public hybrid meetings, which allows maximum member participation prior to the board's final vote to approve the budget. Our spending is transparent in that any expenditure that exceeds the general manager's $15,000 spending authority is reviewed in a public meeting and approved by the board. These expenses, as well as all those below $15,000, are embedded in the general manager's budget, which is available on our website for all to view. How our assessment dollars are spent also is included in a separate document within the budget. In each of our monthly board meetings, general manager, his finance director, and the association treasurer each report on monthly financial results and the status of our capital spending for the month and compare it to the prior year's numbers. The general manager does monthly projections of our year-end operating results and our capital spending for the year. I believe that we can all agree that issues specified to the Maryland Homeowners Association laws must be discussed in the closed meeting to protect the information.
Thank you, stop.
And you're welcome.
Oh, just that Wheatley.
Okay.
You want to talk social media again, huh?
Oh. I want to know how you want to launch your boat.
Full disclosure, I do not own a boat. I don't think I know anyone who does own a boat. And I have not had to worry about getting a boat into water. But my impression is the first step that would have to be taken in this area would be we'd have to find out through John Viola and staff whether or not there's a matrix that could be developed that addresses the concern of residents being able to get through the line, to get their boat in the water, and also see that as a possible revenue raiser whereby commercial users or non-residents could also make use of the boat ramp, but they would have to pay a fee. So the matrix is, how do we work that out? How do we make sure that our residents can get full use of the boat ramp, and we might still be able to realize some revenue by having non-residents, guests, and commercial users pay a fee? Without that information, we can't go much further. So that would be the first step. I don't quite understand the statement by some of my friends up here who claim that we should limit it only to residents and then turn around and say, but we charge a fee to everybody else. If you're limiting it just to residents, then you're limiting it just to residents. If you want to charge a fee for non-residents, then say so. But to me, before we can make a decision as to what to do, we have to know what is doable. And that would be the first step that I would recommend. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're now ready for the 3-minute closing statements, right? Did you all get asked all 6 questions? All right. Okay, 3-minute closing statements.
Closing, you have heard my responses to some questions. Some of my responses might not have sounded quite as erudite or as informed or contained as much data as some people who might be able to speak, and I don't mean any violations, to speak with knowledge of the board. I do not have that knowledge, but I would be pleased to be elected to the board. At times, it's been difficult to address all sides of the questions here tonight. They were a little different than I expected to hear. They did not cover the scope of things I think some of us might have liked to say. I would have liked to talk about the successes we've had over the past 5.5 years I've lived here full time. And I would hope that we would all be able to take a few minutes and think of what's been accomplished under our general manager and his performances. I was fortunate to attend all of the meetings he had when he first started, that he brought in all the departments and listened to what they had to say. And we are now $2 million in the black, and you got to spend that $80 last year off your assessment. What would I bring to the board? Just me. Professionally and personally, you always get the usual response. a new board member, different ways of looking at something, fresh eyes on old problems. It's all cliched because depending on the perspective, all these things will occur whoever sits on the new board. However, my work history has taught me how to work with disparate groups at every level. I guess I sounded a little what with all of that. What would she do in a little place like this? That's how you learn. If you can't do the little things, you can't do the big ones. Occasionally, things have to be settled without confrontation, and my past has taught me how to work in the here and now, but never to abandon future needs and concerns. I would bring the innate ability to never take board or association concerns for granted. And finally, what I consider most important is that in all my positions and jobs in life, I made every endeavor not to forget that I represent others, not to bring my personal plans, my personal wishes, or my personal demands to any job I ever did. I hope that you will consider me as a candidate, realize that I would really love to work for Ocean Pines. I think we have a long way to go, and I think we've come an unusually long way in the past couple of years. Take care, make sure you vote, make sure you get your vote in time. And remember that the most important asset to any of us at the board is to remember to represent the residents of Ocean Pines. Take care, stay safe.
Thank you for your time and your attention and being a voter gathering factual information. Amy Peck, Peck for Pines. That about sums it up. For 20 years, this has been my home, and now that I'm retired, serving Ocean Pines has been my full-time job and my focus. I am not a politician. I've made mistakes, but I've learned to be a better board member, and I believe in giving back. I cannot say the past 10 months have been fun, but they have been busy and rewarding. I've attended so many meetings and I've had so many emails and I've cried, but I've also met some amazing people. I cannot say enough about our volunteers, our GM, the senior leadership team, and our employees. And I am so proud to have the support of so many of those folks. I am asking that voters ignore the loud, noisy minority with their negative messages, misinformation, and the throw the board out mentality. Ignore the constant complainers offering no solutions, and listen and hear the fact that Ocean Pines is doing better than ever. We need to keep this going. I do not want to go from an almost $2 million surplus to an almost $2 million deficit. I want a board that supports John Viola. I do not want directors exhibiting vile behavior. I do not want micromanaging of our GM. I want to see John Viola's vision continue and have the opportunity to support the team. Whatever happens in August, I remain committed to Ocean Pines. I hope it's as a director and that the board can sustain and build on the progress that we are making. So I'm humbly asking for your vote and for the chance to continue to serve Ocean Pines, the community that I love. So I'm asking for your vote. Amy Peck, Peck for Pines.
Nice.
I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I want to address the negative narrative in the community regarding the board of directors. Seriously, just like in the real world, in the work world, you don't always get along with who you work with. Sometimes you don't get along with who you work for, but we all have to work together for a common cause. A common cause. Politics doesn't bring out the best in people, doesn't make them bad people. It's just politics. However, we can't let personal agendas mandate policy in Ocean Pines. It's imperative that we follow our bylaws and our DRs in governing our town now and in the future. It's my intention to work with the other 6 members of the board. We may not always agree, but it doesn't have to become contentious and nasty. The only agenda I have is to work hard for this community, work hard to listen to members of our HOA, and finally, help our board work as a team for the betterment of Ocean Pines. Most importantly, no matter who you vote for, look at the issues and vote for a positive change for our community. In conclusion, I want to give a shout out to our great team of employees who's helped us have the best financial results, I think, in the history of our town. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Stuart Lackernick for the board. Thank you.
I too would like to thank everyone for being here. It's kind of getting into that part of the evening where it's like, all right, let's wrap this up. And I appreciate that. Again, I told you a little bit about myself. I've been volunteering and fundraising since I was a teenager. It's part of who I am. I will work hard for you, just as hard as I work for myself in my personal life. I will apply that same attitude and work ethic for anything I do for the board. And I'm just going to leave you with why I think I know how to get along. And I've told this story to several people, but I grew up in a home with 6 siblings, my mom and dad, and my grandmother for quite a while. Our house was 15 foot wide and 32 feet long. We had 1 bathroom and 3 bedrooms. So you either jumped on that family train or you got hit by it. So I know how to get along. I know how to compromise, and I know how to say, okay, it's not always going to be my way. And my siblings will tell you, 5 of us are here now, so we still get along to this day. The other 2 are coming soon, hopefully. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, guys. Jojo again. I'm here asking you for your vote today. I'd like to continue as a board of director. I wish to preserve Ocean Pines' legacy and history. It's extremely important to me. I've been a proud contributor to OP Residence Academy, involved in our mailbox replacement quest, a promoter of our Northgate improvements, the electronic voting so that we can all have their vote count. By getting your vote, you'll continue to work. By getting your vote, I'll continue to work with my colleagues to keep our community stable, both financially and economically. I'm a solid supporter of our general manager, John Vale, and agree with his support his vision for our future. My skill set, strong and diverse background will benefit and strengthen the board's ability for a better understanding of our aging infrastructure. I have over 25 years experience within the civil and structural engineering design. This would be beneficial to our community for our future growth and maintenance of our infrastructure. I also want to ensure that we have a strong standard operating procedures for repair and maintenance of our current infrastructure in place. I believe that we are stronger because of the Ocean Pines employees. I'd like to suggest that we continue to empower, train, and incentivize our staff. This would help us attract and maintain good and dedicated employees. I believe in doing the right thing, whether someone is watching or not. I have volunteered for the last 8 years in numerous committees within Ocean Pines, and I love our community, and I do promote it daily. I vow to continue my vote, to vote my conscience, and at the end of the day, I'll continue to extend my hand and be that good neighbor, JoJo. Again, my only special interest group is that I have the allegiance to is the 8,542 lot owners, my neighbors, and that is whom I'm here to represent. And I ask you for your vote so I may continue my work here for Ocean Pines. Vote weekly, and I'd say vote often, but it's probably not a funny thing anymore. Sorry. So I humbly ask, hashtag OP Smart Choice.
I'm seeking your support on the board of directors. I'd like to receive a vote from every homeowner in Ocean Pines, but I will settle for finishing in the top 3. Let me leave you with a thought or two. A person whose opinion I deeply respect made a very good suggestion about the level of rancor and the way we address each other. Instead of naming the board of directors or a particular director or even Ocean Pines as a whole, substitute the term my neighbors. because that is what we all are. Ask yourself whether you would address your neighbor with the same level of rancor as you would in a post. It's just a suggestion. If I'm elected to the board, I do not expect you to agree with all of my votes and opinions. There are two central points that we should keep in mind that I think are probably paramount. One, people live in Ocean Pines for the services and amenities that are available to them. And two, the board should always avoid making adverse decisions which impact the value of the property each of us has purchased. This is my frame of reference. That is the guidepost I think we should all follow. We have moved in the last few years from having an unsupportable budget. We've experienced 2 years of pandemic problems, supply chain issues, and now inflation. We have seen positive income flows from our amenities, lower assessments, and better investment in what needs to be done in Ocean Pines. That is something we should continue. And that is something that is the proof of the work both of the staff and the board. They did this together. We will face budget issues. What else needs to be done in the north entrance? More work addressing drainage issues, staffing decisions, and other important subjects. But there are some potential big ticket items as well. The Maryland General Assembly passed legislation which may require us to revisit the money put into our reserve accounts. That is an outgrowth of the condo collapse in Miami last year, where repairs were clearly needed, no funds were in the reserve, and the residents voted against higher assessments. Second, we're likely to be asked to make a major financial commitment to funding the Southside Firehouse. What form that commitment will take, nobody knows right now. Additionally, over time, we may well be faced with the fact that due to recruitment and other matters, the Ocean Pines Volunteer Fire Department will move to a fully funded professional service and not one partially made up of volunteers. That'll raise costs. In closing, I do not comment on social media very often, but I have noticed a few posts which make mention that I am a now retired attorney. Mention was made that the board needs an attorney and perhaps my presence would help lower our costs and legal fees. Let me tell you what I always told my late father. He would call and say, I have a legal question for you. My response was always the same, shoot, but remember you get what you pay for. Thank you, and please remember to vote.
All right, well, thank you, candidates, and thank you for coming and showing your interest. Yep. And we invite you and the people in cyberspace to come again on Saturday, June 25th, same place, same time.